Hey guys, this is Garrett Wong, also known as Ensign Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager, and you're watching Astronomy Live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop.
Hello and welcome to Astronomy Live. Tonight we're going to be monitoring Corona Borealis, also known as the Blaze Star, which is set to experience a nova anytime between now and September of this year. You may have heard about this in the news. In fact, a viewer actually raised this to my attention some months ago, and now I'm finally able to get around to monitoring it here with the LX200. So we're going to point at this star for a while and collect some images, and at the very least we'll have some image data prior to its nova and be able to compare that later on, hopefully. So the star we're interested in is the bright star in the center of the field of view here. The colorful pixels are hot pixels, and right now the camera's taking a dark frame that will subtract those out. But the star we're interested in is right here in the middle. So Corona Borealis, nicknamed the Blaze Star, was discovered during an outburst in 1866, and prior to that it was just a regular magnitude 10 star. And so it's a recurring nova. And so that's because it's a binary system with a small, hot white dwarf star that's collecting and accreting material from a red giant that is donating to it. And when it reaches a critical mass, it will go nova, and the brightness will actually increase to the point we can see it by naked eye, if it does anything like it has in the past. So hopefully the stream is going through okay. Looks like stream health is good. We've got the dark frame in now, so the hot pixels are gone, pretty much. The dark donut circles are just dust motes on the CCD. Those will be subtracted out by doing flat field subtraction after the fact. We do have a good bit of moonlight out tonight from a waxing, just past first quarter, waxing gibbous moon. So apologies for that, but nothing I can do about that, obviously. Also, I've had to run the camera at a warmer temperature than normal due to condensation inside the camera if I cool it down below freezing. I had just installed new desiccant, and I'd hoped that would cure that problem, but it did not. So I've already put in the Amazon order for new desiccant, for more desiccant, some fresh stuff to replace what's in the camera right now, because the bag I have sitting in the closet is obviously no good at this point. Unfortunately, Florida being as humid as it is, the desiccant doesn't tend to last very long, and even though I've heated it up to try to regenerate it, it has not succeeded. It has not fixed the problem. So in the left side we also have a guide star that is being monitored by the camera at 7.7 Hertz right now, almost 8 Hertz, and it's correcting for the position of that star using a tilt-tip mirror system. This is the A07 unit, adaptive optics made by SBIG, designed for this camera, and that really helps a lot, because the LX200 normally would not get stars this tight, this small, on a 5-minute exposure with a traditional fork mount. It's just not normally that good. So the tilt-tip mirror system corrects for any guiding errors by the telescope, as well as, to some extent, atmospheric turbulence, better than the LX200 could do on its own, for sure. Yep, Stellar Drone is going to be the soundscape for tonight. And I haven't even tweeted this out yet, so I'll go ahead and let people know that we're streaming live tonight. Except that, Twitter's not loading on this computer. Well, that's fun. What is the predicted nova date? Anytime between now and September. We can't really nail it down better than that. It's just based on previous activity that was seen where it had a dimming period. And that's a pattern that was seen last time and prior to the eruption in 1946. In 1945, it dimmed for a short period of time before returning to normal and then went nova the following year. And so we're seeing that same pattern. So basically, a little over a year ago in 2023, it had dimmed from magnitude 10 down to magnitude about 12. And so now we're expecting an outburst anytime between May to September 2024. So literally any day now it could go. No, I don't want my printer to install updates right now. Go away, HP. I don't know why every annoying background service Windows can throw at me has been trying to throw at me tonight, but Windows wants to install Windows 11, the printer wants to update, and to all of it I say no. Not tonight. Ooh, we got a satellite. 1 second, let me see if I can identify that. I cannot. Yeah, that streak right there, it's a tumbler. Well, I can, I can try to find a solution for that later. I should have synced my clock. It hasn't been synced for a week. Okay, so the timing of that frame might be a little off of what it really was, but it will save the timestamp on that. I can try to look that up later, but judging by the oscillating brightness, notice how this streak comes and it goes through the image. That is characteristic of a satellite that is not functioning anymore, usually. It's usually characteristic of dead, tumbling satellites that are reflecting the sun's light in an oscillating pattern as it rotates. So essentially that's what space junk looks like. And Sky Safari Pro is not showing me what that is, but if it's just a random old bit of space junk, particularly if it's not noteworthy, then that's not unusual. Sky Safari's database of satellites is far from exhaustive. But I have other ways I can try to investigate that and see if I can come up with a match. Given how late it is right now, it's got to be fairly high altitude. We're not near the geostationary band, the Clark Belt right now. So it would have to be something else. Something in a geosynchronous but not geostationary orbit. And given that these are 5-minute exposures, even a geosynchronous satellite will pass through this exposure very quickly, through this field of view. Field of view is roughly half a degree wide, so you could just barely fit the full moon side to side in the frame. And we're actually magnified in a bit from the total frame, of course. Alright, so tweeted out the stream. Hopefully we get some more people in here. This is actually the first night I've had the LX200 polar aligned and doing deep space work since effecting repairs on it, replacing the motherboard, replacing the right ascension drive, thanks to donation of a donor scope from Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut, and Ryan and Mary Liz at Cosmic Perspective. So I want to give a shout out to the whole gang over there, because they really saved my behind when this scope's motherboard and right ascension drive gave up the ghost. And they found another used LX200 Classic that was on the used market and bought it and let me have all the electronics and the mount components. They took the optical tube and they're going to use it. So essentially the whole scope's going to get used and find life in new ways. The optical tube will be used by the team over at Cosmic Perspective and Everyday Astronaut, and I have taken the working components of that scope, mainly the right ascension drive and motherboard, and put it into my scope. The power panel on that scope was definitely not working. I plugged it in by itself, thankfully, because it started smoking as soon as I tried to turn that part on. The LX200 Classic is relatively simple by today's standards, but the power panel has rather large capacitors that can go bad, and I think something was definitely going bad with that one because it started smoking as soon as I plugged it in. But fortunately, the motherboard and other components were disconnected from it at that point, and no harm was done to them. And as it turned out, the motherboard and right ascension drive seemed to be working well in my scope, thankfully. And that's the parts, those are exactly the parts I needed. So it all worked out very nicely. But this is the first time I've had it really doing what it was designed to do, doing deep space astrophotography, polar aligned. I laugh a bit because serious astrophotographers would say, well, it wasn't really designed to do that. It's not very good at that job compared to more modern, higher end scopes, and that's all true. But that's why the adaptive optics unit is on there, to take up the slack, and I think it does a very nice job of that. It's old school technology for sure. The SBIG ST2000XCM is also itself long in the tooth, but that's why I have two of them, so if one fails, I've got a spare. I love this old scope. I love this old camera. It's just, this combo works very well together. It's not the best by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not the most up-to-date modern scope or camera, but it gets the job done. And you could do a lot worse, honestly, because with this combo, at least, you can guide on a star and do 5-minute sub-exposures and get good results without significant issues. You know, I had struggled for years trying to do auto guiding with an SLR and other cameras, and the results were not nearly as good. And there are a lot of reasons for that, a lot of pitfalls in astrophotography when working with especially long focal length telescopes like this. Trying to do astrophotography with a scope with a natural native focal length of 2 meters, like an 8-inch LX200 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, is not easy. That's a high level of challenge for the mount, because any guiding error, any vibration, it's going to show up in the image. Each pixel here is scarcely more than an arc second, and so that's 1/3600th of a degree. It doesn't take much to blur the image. And so most mounts, including this one, will struggle to do that over a 5-minute long exposure with no blurring. And so you really need a way of correcting for that. Now, the novice, including a younger version of myself, thought that auto-guiding was the silver bullet for that. You just pointed at a star, off-axis, or even just the auto-guiding chip by itself in an SBIG camera, which is on-axis, it's through the same optical tube. You would think that just cures it, but in reality, the mount's motors take a while to respond to any issues. There's slack in the motors, both in declination and right ascension, and it takes a few seconds to take up that slack if you're switching directions on the motor. And so that will produce egg-shaped stars from just tracking error. And it's something that when you're doing this yourself and you're trying to really get the most out of your equipment, you're going to notice. You show it to an average person who doesn't necessarily know how to critique astrophotography, they're not necessarily going to notice it at first, but then if you were to show them side by side a higher quality picture with better tracking, they would say, oh, that one's sharper, right? And you're going to notice it yourself. It's going to bug you because it bugged me. And so I tried a variety of strategies, first using an off-axis guider on a refractor riding piggyback on the telescope, kind of the traditional way to do it. And you get flexure, where the telescope on riding piggyback on the main telescope is flexing, bending differently under the force of gravity as the scope slowly moves across the sky, rotating with the rotation of Earth. And the gravity vector is changing, and that's causing the scope to flex differentially to how the main telescope is being flexed by gravity. And you wouldn't think that there's much flexure there, especially you've got guide rings holding on to that piggyback scope, and you would think, oh, surely, how much difference can it make? Oh, it makes a difference. And it will blur your images, because although you may be guiding perfectly in the refractor, the main telescope is seeing a slightly different view due to that changing gravity vector flexing the scope. And so you get flexure issues. You can try to cure that by using a camera like this that has an onboard guider, or use prism or other device attachment to guide through the same telescope that you're also imaging through, so that you don't have differential flexure. It's not even possible because you're shooting your guide star through the same telescope that's shooting your target. And that sounds great, but that's still not going to cure all your problems, because you still have the backlash on these gears, especially on a more budget scope like this one. So the only way you get to the best possible images through those optics is with a faster response time that doesn't have to worry about the potential backlash of the motors. And that's what we're doing here with the adaptive optics unit. So it's guiding, like I said, at about 8 Hertz, and we've got a nice lock on that star, so it's correcting for it and keeping the stars in the main image nice and tight. Hey Eric, so it's looking good. Definitely doesn't look like it's visually naked eye bright yet. Yeah, so for those who don't know, like when this goes nova, it should reach magnitude 2 thereabouts. That's a star that you would see even under suburban skies. Right now, it's about magnitude 10, should be. Yeah, so these two stars here, for reference, up in the top left, are magnitude 10.8 and 10.6. So 10.8, 10.6, a little brighter. The Blaze star is supposed to be on a normal night 10.1, according to Sky Safari Pro. It's at a distance of about 2,700 light years, according to Sky Safari. And yeah, so I mean, it does look a good bit brighter than these two stars that are 10.8 and 10.6, as I said. Okay, let's see, is that... Let me see, there's another one that should be theoretically brighter. Yeah, this one down here. This is supposed to be magnitude... Oh, come on. Magnitude 9.3. Okay. So that's supposed to be magnitude 9.3 right there. Is that also variable? Yeah, it's also variable, so I don't know. It might not be exactly on the dot 9.3 right now. It's also a variable star, so it can vary in brightness as well. But I'm saying, what do you guys think? I think this one still does look a little brighter than this one. I mean, that's not terribly... dang, some beetle flew in my hair. It's not terribly scientific of me, but I guess I can load it up in SAO Image DS9. Though I don't have them. I don't have it debayered, so that's not going to work well. Try to open it anyway, though, and just see what happens. See if it'll even let me. Give me just a second, guys. Apologies. I'm gonna see if I can save this as a TIFF or something. No, it doesn't let me. You don't like it. Okay, well, it was a thought. Okay. I was going to try to save it as a TIFF or something else that other programs can more easily open, but it doesn't like that idea. The program just doesn't let me do it. I wasn't trying to move that window. Move the other one. This one. There we go. Let's move that over there. And of course, CCD Soft and its ancient brilliance only tells you the 8-bit color. It doesn't tell you, because these are 16-bit high depth or high dynamic range images, 16-bit depth. But it's only reporting sort of the tone mapped, the values that it's showing and displaying, which are 8-bit values, because I got an 8-bit monitor. That's what it's going to display. But the actual raw image data that it's saving in FITS file is in fact 16-bit. So there's more dynamic range there that it's not showing. Oh. Okay, well. That'll be confusing for later, but great. I'm realizing now I skipped a step tonight in setup. It's been a while. I'm saving all these pictures to the wrong folder. They're going to an old folder. That's fine. As long as they're getting saved, I can move them later. Okay, so let me see if well, it will open. Okay, it's just not going to be debayered, but it will open. So the other thing is that these are, as I said, high bit depth FITS files, and the camera, this SBIG ST2000 XCM, is a single shot color camera like most consumer cameras. Now, a lot of his astronomical cameras are grayscale, and you have to use color filters to produce color, but this is not like that. This is a single shot color CCD. In fact, it's the exact same type of CCD that's found on the Mars, Perseverance, and Curiosity rovers for those color cameras. So it's got single shot color capability. The color filters are over each pixel individually, and a repeating pattern called a Bayer matrix of one red, 2 green, and 1 blue pixels. So it's in a repeating pattern of 4 pixels, 1 red, 2 green, 1 blue. But that information is not embedded in the image per se. It's just saving the raw pixel values for each pixel, and whatever software opens up the picture needs to know on its own what the pattern is for the colors of the pixels. Most astronomical software, a lot of programs anyway, don't necessarily know that for purposes of analysis, like SAO Image DS9. It doesn't know that. It doesn't care. And it's honestly not expecting to receive color pictures. It's designed really to work with individual color channels and grayscale images. So you have to go through a process called debayering, where you interpolate the full resolution color picture. And most cameras, most consumer digital cameras, do this seamlessly in the background, but they are doing it internally. They just aren't transparent to the user about it. So you buy a camera at Walmart or Target or I don't know, wherever you buy your cameras these days, and it takes a picture. In the background, it is interpolating the picture from a repeating pattern of colors. It'll have its own Bayer matrix, and it might be a different pattern, but it is the same principle nevertheless, of red, green, and blue pixels usually. And let's say it has 10 megapixels, okay? In reality, each pixel is only designated for a single color, and it is interpolating back up to the full resolution of the sensor using an algorithm. And so for these pictures, you have to do that yourself. You get to pick which algorithm you want to use, but you have to choose what you're going to do there. And so programs like Deep Sky Stacker will do that for you. They will debayer the images. They will interpolate the full resolution color picture based on the data in that picture, because some programs like Deep Sky Stacker know what the pattern is for every given type of astronomy camera out there, including this one. So you simply tell it what type of camera you used. It says, oh, I know what the pattern is on that camera, so I know that this pixel's green, this pixel's red, this pixel's blue, and it will use an algorithm at the user selection. The user selects which algorithm they want to use, and it will interpolate the full resolution color picture. I remember 20 years ago when the first Meade, what do they call it? Meade DSi camera came out, and I bought that one. That was my first digital camera designed for astronomy, really. First deep space camera. It also had a single shot color camera like this, only very, very much lower resolution, not nearly as good. And the algorithm that they packaged with it to debayer the pictures and produce the full resolution color picture was terrible. The algorithm that it initially came with was so awful. They later patched it to something else and improved it. They released updated software, but I remember it would artifact these sort of colorful blobs at the bottom of the stars, and it was nothing to do with color fringing of the telescope. It was just bad debayering with the algorithm. So like I said, they later patched that, but I remember in the early days 20 years ago with that camera running into that as an issue. These days a lot of people use Maxim DL or Deep Sky Stacker or some other software like that to process their images. So anyway, programs like Sky Safari Pro, or not Sky Safari Pro, sorry, programs like SAO Image DS9 don't necessarily know what the pattern is of the pixels, and so it simply opens it as a grayscale picture, but in truth it's a color picture. It's just that the program doesn't know what the colors are. It just sees pixel values. So that's what I've got it open with in a separate window. I'm not showing that on screen right now, but it's not as interesting to look at anyway, because it just opens it as if it were a grayscale black and white image, and it isn't, but it doesn't know that. So I just want to know what values we're looking at here. 64559. So that's pretty much maxing that out. They both are, actually. So that's interesting. I guess I would need to use probably Astro Image J would be a better option for trying to analyze the brightness here. I think there's a way to do it. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it with S8 Image DS9, but I've forgotten how. But at least I can tell based on the raw values that it's actually, it actually does seem like, although it doesn't look it in the CCD soft picture we're looking at right now, it doesn't necessarily look like it here, but it is actually true that this image, this star in the bottom right, seems like it's brighter than the star in the middle, just based on the actual raw pixel values. This star in the bottom right is almost maxing out the detector more than the star in the middle, just over a broader region of the sensor. To some extent, that's because it's at the edge of the field of view, and just by the nature of the LX200 Classic optics, it's going to occupy more pixels. It's not going to be quite as sharp as a star in the middle of the field of view. But even though it's smeared out over a few more pixels, it is maxing out those pixels pretty much. So it is reasonable to expect that that star in the bottom right is truly a bit brighter than the one in the middle, slightly. So bottom line is, I think that indicates it hasn't gone nova yet, but you know, when I first took a look at it tonight, I haven't shot this star before, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite as bright as it was. When it showed up, it was quite obvious in the camera, even with the 1 second exposure. It's like, oh, yeah, there's a bright star in the middle there. That must be it, right? And I did the astrometry on it, and sure enough, confirmed that is the correct star. So, if you upload images to nova.astrometry.net, you can get the coordinates of your images, and I did confirm that the star in the middle we're looking at, that is the correct star. That is T Corona Borealis. What direction do we look? Great question. So, right now, it's, from Florida anyway, it's, I don't know, just a little before the meridian at this point, high in the sky. It's in the constellation Corona Borealis, which isn't super obvious in the sky if you're not under very dark skies, which right now, thanks to the moon, I'm not under terribly dark skies anyway. But if you know how to find Arcturus, and Arcturus is one of those stars that's easy to find, if you can locate the Big Dipper in the north to northeast, and you follow the handle of the Dipper, you continue extending the line of the handle from the Big Dipper, and it will intersect a bright star. That's Arcturus. So, Corona Borealis is going to be to the left of Arcturus, or to the east of Arcturus, as I look at it right now. So, slightly to the east of that. And there's only a couple stars I can see right now with all the moonlight in the sky in that region, but that is where the telescope is looking right now. So, yeah, when this star goes nova, it's expected to get up to about magnitude 2, thereabouts. So it would be on par with the brightest star in its own constellation at that point. And that's Alphecca. But right now, at magnitude 10, or thereabouts, it's much too dim to see by naked eye, even with averted vision, even from perfectly dark skies. You do need binoculars or a telescope to see it. Hey, T2. So, I think we're not catching the nova tonight, or at least it hasn't happened yet. Could happen any second, right? Come on, let's have it blow up in the next frame. That'd be cool. But at the very least, we've got some good images for a before shot, and then eventually when it does hopefully go nova between now and September, we'll have good images to compare against. That's the good thing about a recurrent nova is, you know, at some point it's going to explode, so you can get a nice comparison shot with your telescope prior to it going off. Yes, it happened. So the last time this star went nova, I believe, was 1946, and it was also observed in 1866. And according to Wikipedia, it may have been observed in 1217 and 1787. Oh, yeah, the time lag in terms of its distance from Earth. Yeah, so, you know, we're looking at something that, first of all, happens repeatedly on a cycle that's much faster than the time it actually takes the light to get to Earth. So, ironically, that means not only has it already happened, it's already happened many, many times since the light left this system. So, you know, we're looking back in time here, somewhere around 2,700 years, according to Sky Safari Pro. And if this happens every 80-ish years or so, well, that's a whole lot of explosions going off between us and the star. That just hasn't caught up to us yet, of course. But that's always the case, right? With any of these recurrent nova, pretty much. And again, if you're wondering, well, how can it explode multiple times? It's because you have a binary system where you have a red giant that is transferring material to a smaller, more compact star, and when that reaches a critical mass, it explodes. And so that process can repeat multiple times. So you got a white dwarf, which is the ultimate fate of our sun. It's expected that when our sun dies and sheds off its outer layers, what will be left is a white dwarf cinder, essentially. And in this case, you have a red giant next to it that's orbiting with it, and as that material is leached off by the white dwarf and accumulates, at some point it reaches critical mass and fuses, and boom, you've got another nova. I think there was an episode of Star Trek Next Generation that showed that kind of situation with a red giant and white dwarf. Let me see if I can find that. Maybe it's in my imagination. I thought there was one. Okay, maybe not. What's the temp humidity? Muggy as can be in 78 degrees. Yeah, humidity right now is 98%. How am I surviving in this humidity? I don't know, honestly. Oh yeah, you should definitely be able to see this with the 12-inch telescope. No problem. You just have to get some star charts to find it. There is a pretty distinct pattern of stars near it. Let's see if... Well, I guess I don't fully have that pattern in the frame now because... No, actually it's here. Okay, because I had to rotate the camera to get the guide star that I wanted. But this little pattern right here, these two, these are fairly bright. And so I think, let's see, this is 11.9, 11.8, so 11.9, 11.8, and then yeah, 10.6, and what was it, 10.8, 10.6, 10.8. So these 4 stars here really clued me in that I really was in the right zone, the right area, before I even astrometrically solved it, just because it's kind of distinctive looking to me. Kick myself. I missed the Starlink launch earlier this evening. I could have stepped out back and watched that. John Pisani, I just retweeted his photo of it. He caught thruster firings from the fairing halves as they came off the rocket, getting up into the sunlight there. You can really see the exhaust from those thruster firings from each of the fairing halves as they navigated back towards Earth. Really cool shot. So I retweeted that over on X. You lucky guys with your lower humidity. Here I am at 98%, 78 degrees. Yeah, it was not super comfortable when setting up the scope tonight. And F900EX, so it's not going supernova, it's a recurrent nova, which is a different phenomenon. So supernova, you think of when a star dies and collapses and goes supernova and leaves behind either a neutron star or a black hole. This is not that. This is a recurrent nova occurring in a double star system, so you have a red giant, and that's principally what we're seeing here with the red color, and a smaller white dwarf, and the giant is getting leached by the white dwarf, and as that material accretes and accumulates, at some point it reaches critical mass and triggers a fusion reaction that causes an explosion and causes it to go nova. But that is a recurring phenomenon, so it actually happens over and over again, which is how we know it's about to happen again, because the same pattern of activity was seen before, last in 1946. So we're hoping to see this star go nova sometime between now and September. .80 Fahrenheit and 98% out by my scope, according to Arduino. Nice. Yeah, that sounds about what I'm dealing with right now, too. Hey, Philly Sky Guy. Yeah, this is your friendly reminder. You get those pictures of this star before it goes nova, so you can have a before and after comparison. And who knows, if we're real lucky, it might go nova tonight, right? Yeah, I know the odds are extremely against it, but it's like playing the lotto, only I didn't have to pay anything to do it. And hey, it's better than those fake RealPax streams, right? I bet he's still got a stream up right now, right? No, not right now. Oh, he does. Yep. Oh, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a hoaxer with 1 million subscribers here on YouTube right now who's streaming to 49 people who think they're watching Betelgeuse going supernova right now. Yes. One wonders how he has a 24/7 live stream of Betelgeuse, considering, you know, the Orion constellation is getting closer and closer to the sun right now, so not exactly a good time of year for that. Yeah, he's a unknown hoaxer, unfortunately, who just streams an orange blob at all times, claiming that it's Betelgeuse going supernova right now. And typically he'll have a countdown timer going to try to bait people into continuing to watch for at least 5 to 10 minutes, and then the timer just resets. Yeah. And he's been able to accrue about 1 million subscribers just doing that constantly. That and other things. Like if there's a comet that's currently popular, he'll change it over and have a stream of some other previous comet, and he'll just loop it constantly and act like he's streaming it constantly. It's just unfortunate because it just does damage to the hobby, honestly. Yeah, I remember watching that stream back in 2019, exactly. Yeah, that's been going on for a while now with him. 24/7, daytime as well? Yeah, exactly. Daytime as well, somehow. But I suppose if it was going supernova, it would be visible during the day, right? So at least it has internal lore consistency, except for the fact that it ought to go below the horizon at some point. Yeah, exactly, SMA. Yeah, it gives a bad name to those of us who legitimately do this, and honestly, it's insulting to the effort that you and I put into doing streams like this. I mean, you know how it is. You're out there quite a bit doing solar streams and stuff, getting beat on by the sun and setting up equipment. Oh yeah, and their chat removes any word remotely related to fake. Yeah, exactly. SMA says maybe he has exclusive access to the same telescope model in special locations around the world. Oh, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. But without a doubt, if he's streaming Betelgeuse going supernova for this many years, that has got to be the universe's longest supernova in history. Yeah, it's true, Philly Sky Guy. They do that for numbers, and I'm doing this for knowledge and awareness, which is true, all true. But still, it's like now I feel obligated, somewhat, to make an extra effort just to demonstrate that I am doing this for real right now, that this isn't, you know, I'm not hoaxing it. I'm not just like playing some video in the background. Here I am, you know, I'm wiggling my mouse, whatever, I can highlight, that's great. But like, what do I do to show differentiation there, right? What do I do to show that, yeah, this is the real deal, this is authentic versus that fake stuff? And one of the things I want to get into more is allowing you guys as viewers to be able to remote control my scope and take over control of the camera and shoot things yourselves. That's definitely something I want to get more into. And as many of you know, I have a standing offer out there to space deniers who think the space station doesn't exist, for example, to come use my telescope. And I've tested this with Red's Rhetoric. He's remote controlled the scope both for operating the deep space camera on nights similar to tonight with the same kind of equipment set up to do deep space observations, and he's also remote controlled it, the 11-inch telescope doing satellite tracking. So all of those things can be done, but right now that requires essentially handing over the keys to my entire computer over to someone else, which is, it's risky, right? I'm the one assuming risk here with handing over control of my laptop to somebody who may have ill intent, and that's risk I'm willing to accept on a rare occasion to specific space deniers. Sure, if they want to come on and remote control it, fine. And if ultimately they wreck something, okay. You know, I knew what I was getting into there. But to do that on a routine basis with just whoever happens to be watching, say, this stream right here, well, that's a different situation. There's a much greater chance that at some point someone's going to try to, you know, hack my stuff at that point. Versus, you know, just the occasional offer to individuals who, for some reason, always decline. That's the other thing. Is making that offer. It's not that I'm bluffing, because I'm not. I am absolutely not bluffing. Like I said, I've tested this with Red's Rhetoric. It works. Sure, come on. Let's have you on and have you controlling the scope, and we'll live stream it. You can film ISS yourself, or you can take pictures of a galaxy yourself, whatever you like. We can do that. But they always decline. They always run away. As soon as that offer's made, they out the door, beeline it. Find some excuse to not do it. Some of them will say publicly, oh yeah, no, we'll do it. Like, sure, we'll do it. I say, okay, great. And as soon as I give them the instructions of, okay, here's how you're going to connect to my computer. Oh, no, I don't feel so good about doing this. Bye. And usually it ends with me getting blocked. So, ironically, if I were bluffing, no one would have called it yet. But I think a lot of them realize I'm not bluffing. And as it turns out, they are. So, ultimately, though, what I would like to do is have a system that is safer for me to be able to hand over control, where I'm not having to hand over control of the entire laptop, but just the telescope and just the camera. Yeah, should make a web app to control the telescope. Well, yeah, that's where I'm going with that. That's what I want to be able to do. And, you know, I've got some experience writing Python code and all that. So with something like Django or Flask or something, it should be possible to set that up. And, you know, in my head, I'm even picturing like a queue line where people can queue up to take turns to take control for a little bit and point it at, you know, coordinates they want. But all that said, there's still logistics that have to be managed there in terms of making sure that, you know, I can abort the slew if something's getting twisted or tangled or pulled on by the telescope. Cord management is a lot of fun when you have, you know, a dozen different cords coming out of the telescope for the dew heater, for the camera, for the declination motor, for the power to the telescope, for the computer control cable, for the autoguider cable. Yeah, there's a lot of cables running around the telescope, and if one of them gets snagged, well, I got to be able to pull the plug, preferably without shutting down power to the entire telescope, just abort the slew. So there's things like that. Like, it's not like I can just set it and say, okay guys, go have fun, I'm gonna go inside and get a bite to eat now. Like, I've got to be able to babysit it, just to make sure that the hardware isn't physically damaged during operation. And, you know, it's just things like that. Things like making sure that if someone wants to just be a troll and try to abuse the equipment, that they can't. Like, hey, I'm going to point it directly at the moon, and then I'm going to crank the camera up to expose for 5 minutes straight, and let's see if we can burn a hole in the camera. Like, okay, someone's going to be an absolute jerk. I you know, need to be able to hopefully intercept that without me even having to, like, manually press a button and say, stop it, you know. Say, okay, these parameters you've given me are obviously designed to damage my equipment, so I'm not going to let that go through, that kind of thing. It's sad, but that's the world we live in, so just got to manage things like that. So I'm going to do a quick stack here and see what it looks like. I have to shoot some new flat fields. The ones I'm using from a previous night are not good reference. Okay, let me share the stacked frame from the first, what is it, about hour and 10 minutes worth of light. That's not too bad. Pax will have a new image for his next best view in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm almost kicking myself that I didn't put the JWST mask on to make JWST-like diffraction spikes on it. It's not so super bright that it would make very big spikes, but maybe in a 5-minute exposure you would see some small ones. And then, of course, after it goes nova, you would see some big spikes off of it. What do you think, guys? Should I do a second run of images with the mask on to put diffraction spikes on it? ZWO Duo cams? Has it got a built-in autoguider sensor? Or is that something else? I don't know. I don't follow ZWO as closely as I should. I'm sitting here with my old school early 2000s tech, late 90s, early 2000s. Huh. Somebody says, speaking of spikes, I saw there's these things you can add to the supports for the secondary to remove the spikes. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that, but sounds interesting. I like being in the position with a Schmidt-Cassegrain that, and true of Maxitovs as well, of course, that you get to pick if you want diffraction spikes or not. By default, it doesn't have them, of course. And if you want them, all you gotta do is string something up over the front of it. Yeah, a little guider sensor just above the primary. Yeah, that's exactly what this camera's got, of course, and that's the way to go, I think. That's cool. Sir Carbol says, how exactly do they know this week it'll nova and be visible? We don't. Could be any time between now and September. But at the very least, even if it doesn't go tonight, even if it doesn't go this week, I'll have pre-explosion pictures to be able to use. So with this image, I'll have an hour and a half worth of data. I mean, I'm decently happy even with the hour 10-minute stack, that 70-minute stack up in the top right corner. I'm decently pleased with that, and I think an hour and a half of data should be fine if I just want to end up going with the no diffraction spike image. I think after this photo, I'm going to grab my JWST mask and just throw it on there and see what we get. Would a total amateur be able to see this with a cheap Celestron telescope? Yeah, absolutely, I think so. It's about magnitude 10, should be within grab of just about any amateur telescope. Okay, 60 seconds left on this exposure. I'll be right back. got my JWST mask by my side now. And as soon as this photo downloads, I'm going to pause everything while I put the mask on. Okay, nice. Abort. Alright, let me throw the mask on real quick. Okay, now let's see if I manage to not bump the scope too much. Yeah, there we go. The autoguider star's still there. Dimmer now, but that's to be expected. I'm gonna go ahead and start saving these in the correct directory. So I've started a new run of 5-minute exposures with the JWST mask on. So we'll see if this star is bright enough pre-explosion to be able to generate some diffraction spikes with the mask. Shrink this up a little bit and just move this like that. I don't think it's going to give us terribly big spikes, but it's more, again, this is more about planning and getting what I can prior to any explosion, prior to any nova, so that after it goes nova, when it's magnitude 2 or 3, it will be definitely bright enough to generate some significant diffraction spikes. And if I take such a picture with those spikes, I want to be able to have that in the... I want to be able to have the same mask on in the pre-explosion shot. Yeah, I would recommend, I mean, I personally like using Deep Sky Stacker for this kind of stacking. For lunar planetary satellites, these days I often write my own scripts in Python to do it, just because sometimes I want to do it my way, like I want to do a rolling average stack or something fancy like that, and the easiest way for me to do it, the way I know how to do it, is just writing the script myself in Python. Hey, Toast. Silly Sideben says, I have this app called Deep Sky Camera that is too technical for me, to be honest, but from little I do know, turns a phone camera into a fairly capable astro camera all in one bit of software. Sounds interesting. I haven't heard of that one before, but I do enjoy playing around with my Google Pixel 6 as a, you know, always in your pocket astronomy camera. It's nice to have. Back on May 10th when we had the Aurora Borealis all the way down here in Florida, I was really happy to have that in my pocket, to be able to just whip it out and throw it down and have it start taking 4-minute frames of the sky and be able to put together this little time lapse of the Aurora Borealis here in Florida. Just fantastic what they can do nowadays. So I'm not familiar with that app, but I will definitely check that out. Deep Sky Camera. Takes pictures in RAW JPEG. It's interesting. Hey, there we go. Alright. Well, we definitely have diffraction spikes on it. It's not, they're not huge, of course, but they're there. I think this stacking this will help accentuate how bright it is after it goes nova. Because these diffraction spikes will elongate based on the brightness. Again, I'm kind of amazed at how bright it looks compared to this star down here that's magnitude 9 point something. It's supposed to be brighter. I don't know, like I haven't done any proper photometry of the star tonight, so, you know, my cognitive bias wants to hope that it's starting to increase in brightness, that we might be at the very beginning of something exciting here, but I certainly don't see that happening tonight. Like, I don't see it changing brightness over the course of the night, so I don't think I'm on to anything there, but it would be sweet if it did. I'll take a look, SlickX. Remove the IR filter to get full spectrum photos. Made a holder for a solar filter, but I don't think things are working correctly. So, ooh. Well, it looks like you are getting full spectrum. Yeah, I mean that's what a infrared sensitive camera should look like. The security camera I use with my own homebrew security system, that's what the pictures look like, and I have infrared illuminators I use to be able to see in the dark. And yeah, that's pretty normal for what it would look like with the IR filter removed. Now, in terms of if that's a picture of the sun there, I think part of the issue you're facing is that the camera doesn't know what it's doing with that. When it sees mostly black in the image, the automatic gain functions, the automatic exposure functions are going to try to overexpose the sun to get, things further up the histogram in terms of the average brightness in the image. It thinks that's a problem. So you have to be able to set the exposure manually. If you do that, I think you might be able to see sunspots and such. Yeah, Fantasy X, glad you just joined. So, this is T Corona Borealis in the middle. I just put a mask on the front of the telescope that I had 3D printed to generate diffraction spikes similar to the James Webb Space Telescope. So, essentially, I took the picture of James Webb's mirror, and actually it's the selfie picture it took of its own mirror, and use that to generate a mask, a 3D printed mask with the same hexagonal segments and cutouts for where the secondary mirror are on James Webb, and use that to be able to put on my telescope so that my telescope acts the way James Webb acts in terms of generating diffraction spikes. So that makes the picture more interesting. You see the little spikes coming off the star. That's not because it's exploding or anything, that's just because of how the optics are acting now with the James Webb mask. In the top right, you can see a stack generated from the first 70 minutes of light that we collected earlier in the stream, where there was no mask, and you can see what the star looked like with no diffraction spikes on it. This is a Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope that does not normally generate diffraction spikes. But when you put something over the aperture, you can get it to generate diffraction spikes. In the case of James Webb, it's generating James Webb itself generates diffraction spikes because that's just a result of how the optics are shaped with the segmented mirrors and the secondary support structure. But I'm using a 3D printed mask to make my optics as if they were shaped more like James Webb to be able to generate those spikes. So I'm going to go in for a minute and get a drink of water here real quick, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes. earth-shattering kaboom just yet, huh? What is the distance from Earth? It's about 2,700 light years, according to Sky Safari Pro. Earlier, Tom's guest asked, is it possible to see it at night? Only with optical aid. It is too dim to see by eye, but after it goes nova, it should brighten to the point that it is essentially the brightest star in its constellation of Corona Borealis. Yeah, it's relatively near Arcturus. So I'm going to go ahead and stack all the pictures that we took from the beginning of the stream with no diffraction spikes. Odd. Why didn't the flat field do anything? Okay, let's try that again. Oh, you know, it was a different camera, that's why. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Okay. I've got two SBIG cameras, and I used flat fields from the wrong SBIG camera. Okay. That'll do it every time. Try this again. Alright, so here is, instead of that little 70-minute stack, I now have a full 90-minute stack. Alright, so here were all the images from before I put on the JWST mask to generate diffraction spikes. Pretty good, huh? I'm pretty happy with that. Oh yeah, this is one of those stars that has like 50 different names, depending on the database. So CPWI, I guess, has it only by the HR number. So let's see, HR 5958. Yep, Skies Ferry Pro has it in there on that name as well. How long does it last when it goes nova? Not too long. Let's take a look at the historical data. Let's see. The 1946 eruption. Yeah, it dropped in brightness from magnitude 2 very, very quickly. Within a month, it was already back down. Let me see if I can pull up that image. Yeah, so this is the light curve from the 1946 outburst. I just pulled this off Wikipedia. And you can see on the bottom, on the x-axis, time in months. So there's February 1946. And you see how it shoots up from magnitude 10 up to magnitude 3. And it just immediately starts coming back down. Now it does brighten up again for a few months through 1946, but not nearly as bright. So hopefully that gives you some idea what you're looking at timetable-wise with it. Once it goes, you really want to try to spot it as soon as you can. Within at least the first couple nights, hopefully. But here, of course, that's all going to depend on the weather. So, we'll see. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be too dim for the ELP cam, probably. At least until it goes Nova, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stack the newest pictures with the JWST mask as well. Just to see what we're getting. We have 50 minutes, about to have 55 minutes of data. Okay, and here's a quick and dirty stack of the first 50 minutes with the JWST mask for diffraction spikes. Quite pretty. So currently it's about magnitude 9 or 10, as best I can tell, just based on other stars in the area. But I haven't done any photometry on it tonight. At least not yet. So if you're looking for it, you have to have a telescope right now to see it. Not until it goes nova will you see it by naked eye. But it is to the east of Arcturus, to the left as I look at it in the sky right now, to the left of Arcturus. Is it currently showing any signs of going nova right now? I mean, not that I can really see, no. But with every picture, you never know. It might just suddenly blow up. Now, I'm not really one for the lottery. Just doesn't interest me. But I tell you what, watching these pictures come in, knowing that it could happen any time between now and, you know, months from now, but you never know. In the next 5 minutes, who knows? So with every picture coming in, I'm like hoping I suddenly see something dramatic change with it, you know? As silly as that is, because if it can happen any time between now and, you know, 4 months from now, chances are it's probably going to happen months from now, not tonight. But you never know. Yeah, you know, SMA, based on the light curve from that 1946 outburst, it looks to me like from one night it goes from being magnitude 10 to immediately the next night it's now magnitude 2 or 3. And how quickly that happens, I suspect it's probably on the order of minutes. Yeah, I mean, from one perspective, certainly short exposures might do a better job of capturing it happening in progress. But in terms of trying to get a good-looking final photo out of a stack, you know, just trying to maximize light integration and signal-to-noise ratio, I'm content with going for 5 minutes, because I mean, in my head, I know the odds of me catching it in the moment it explodes, next to none. And especially when trying to go after these diffraction spikes, they are essentially, you know, faint, extended spikes. So, more light is better for that. But I think in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to wrap it up and start taking my calibration frames, taking some flat fields, start wrapping things up for the night. Oh, and I also wanted to train the periodic error correction, because, again, this is the first night I've had the LX200 out since, well, first night I've had it polar aligned since affecting repairs to the motherboard and right ascension drive. And so those now need to be retrained for periodic error correction. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, Caleb, I mean, that's my big motivation, honestly, tonight. My odds of, catching it in progress, I knew were going to be nil, but to at least see it, before it goes, then you get a nice before and after shot. Yeah, should be any day now, but honestly, any day can be any day in the next 4 months. So, it's one of those things I didn't want to let slip by without getting on it before it goes, and then miss the chance to get a before and after shot. Yeah. Yeah, I bet there's probably at least one observer watching this star every night. I think if it goes any time in the next few months, there's a very good chance it'll be monitored. Be cool to see pictures of it happening in process. Okay, that was the episode I was trying to think of, SMA. TNG Evolution had a star like this. I thought there was a... Yeah, red giant, white dwarf binary or something in TNG at some point. Yeah, I was trying to Google it, and I wasn't having any luck. I was hoping somebody had like a screenshot or something from that episode, but nothing came up for my searching. Yes, this star is in our galaxy. It's about 2,700 light years away. Whether it has its own planetary system, that I don't know. I don't know if there are any known exoplanets in the system. But yeah, just a nice looking star getting ready to go nova soon. No, I mean, the title is accurate. It's about to go nova, and it's literally nicknamed the Blaze Star. Like, if you go into Sky Safari Pro, that's what it calls it, Blaze Star. As for the thumbnail, yeah, I didn't have any pictures of it prior to the stream to use, so I just grabbed a picture out of my directory, but I've already replaced the thumbnail, so it just has to... It takes a while for YouTube to go through the process of updating it. So apologies, I literally updated it once I got a stack of the actual star. So that's going to be the thumbnail going forward. It's a red giant, yeah. So it's actually a double star system, and that's why it's going to go nova. It's because there's a red giant that is donating material to the white dwarf that is also in that system. So as that white dwarf accretes material from the red giant, when it reaches critical mass, it triggers fusion and explodes. But because that process can repeat, it's a recurrent nova. That's why we know it's about to happen again, because it's exhibiting, or did exhibit, the same kind of activity that it did before it exploded in 1946. So, based on the pattern of behavior, we expect it to go nova sometime between now and September. Need a countdown for when the next image downloads. Title it Next Best Image. Okay, I'm definitely doing that at some point. I'm definitely doing that at some point. We're gonna do a parody stream, parody the real packs with real images. I mean, we got the countdown timer in the bottom left there. I just got to make that bigger. Here, let's see. Before we wrap it up tonight, we'll just crop to the timer. Like this. And then blow this up. Let's see. Here. We can just crop to the countdown. There it is. Oh my goodness, only 195 seconds left. Why didn't I think of this sooner? Uh-oh, it's filling up with blue. That must mean something, right? Oh, I'm sorry. That's just too funny. But I have a stupid sense of humor, I guess. I could do that for the thumbnail too. Yeah. Alright. It's gonna annoy me if I leave it like that for the start of the next stream. I'm really gonna hate myself if I do that, so I'll fix this. What's so funny? So, I was trying to... It's SMA's fault. I was trying to parody this other channel. It's a hoax channel called The Real Pax. He does astronomy live streams all the time. By all the time, I mean 24 hours a day, streaming right now Betelgeuse, supposedly going supernova. He titles his fake live streams things like Betelgeuse going supernova right now, and claims to be showing it. But the thing is, it's going 24 hours a day. There's no way he could be seeing Betelgeuse 24 hours a day. On top of that, there's a fake countdown timer in all of his live streams. It's like counting down to something, whether it's the best view of a comet or the supernova exploding in, on Betelgeuse, whatever. But it just resets. It's literally like watching these images get taken, only he claims that it's, I don't know, the next best image. Just to try to hook you, to keep you watching. But the thing is, like I said, it's all fake. His live streams aren't even real, but he bans anyone from his chat who points out that the timer keeps resetting and that Betelgeuse isn't going supernova right this second. So, yeah, I was just having a little bit of fun there, imitating his style of hoaxing. The other Astronomy Live character who hangs out with his dog, I think, and it has nothing to do with astronomy. There was a guy, what was his name? I can't think of his name. So there's an Astronomy Live stream who I believe is a legitimate amateur astronomer, but then there's another guy who took the screen name Astronomy Live on YouTube after I had already created this channel, and he basically has a problem with me, I guess, because I was friends with Dazza the cameraman. I still am. And he had a real big problem with Dazza. And so he was, like, trying to go after me for a bit. He doesn't really... I haven't seen him in years. Like, I don't even know if he uploads anymore. But, yeah, he took the channel name Astronomy Live. So I had to, I forget what I did with my @ symbol when that came out on YouTube, but he already grabbed, like, Astronomy Live, all one word on that, when YouTube introduced custom names. So I think I had to do, like, Astronomy_Live, I forget what I even did, but, yeah, he's a bit of a work. Oh, okay. Alright, so we've got now an hour and a half of image data from the telescope with the star going there. I'm going to go ahead and abort this, and abort this, and abort that. Okay, so I'm going to work on stacking what we got. And while I do that, I'm also going to auto-guide, but not with the adaptive optics. Just going to do auto-guiding with the telescope itself. Hopefully that works. And I'm going to have it train the periodic error correction. See, if I do that with the adaptive optics, it won't work. I need the non-adaptive optics auto-guiding to be going and have that teach the telescope its own periodic error in what is known as permanent periodic error correction with the LX200, where it remembers and plays back the guiding that you issue to it during a period of a few minutes. But I don't know that the guiding's really working all that well. It's drifting there quite a bit. Will it get it back? Come on, get it back. Get that star back and centered. See, it might be... I don't know if it's fighting the declin or the backlash, or does it just need to be recalibrated? Or... okay, alright. Let me abort this. Yeah. Let's recenter the adaptive optics so it's not doing anything with that. And then... okay. Hopefully that holds. We'll see. Okay. Oh no, the star's way off in the corner there. Well, hopefully it keeps it in frame at least. Yeah, periodic error is basically where the gear for the right ascension is not perfectly circular because it's mass-produced and it's not super high-end. So, I mean, it's roughly circular. If you looked at it, you'd say, oh, no, that's perfectly circular. But in reality, the gear is slightly out of round. They all are. And so, at times, it will move a little bit faster than it needs to, and at other times, it'll move a little bit slower than it needs to because it's not perfectly circular. So, although over the course of a full rotation, it may have moved on average the right amount, for any given moment in time, it might be moving slightly too fast or slightly too slow. And so, what the computer on the telescope will do, if you train it, you teach it that it's moving too fast or too slow in a given moment, and it will save that in memory and then play it back constantly to compensate. So you can see how the star in the pixelated box there is moving from corner to corner in the image, basically back and forth. And because of how I've got the camera rotated, that is actually the right ascension axis, left and right, and it's struggling trying to keep that star in frame. The camera is taking pictures 10 times a second and issuing guiding corrections to the telescope, but the telescope's motors only move oh so fast in doing those corrections. So right now I'm teaching it, I'm having the camera actually teach it what the periodic error is on this particular right ascension drive, and programming that into the motherboard. It looks like it's never been taught before, and I know it had some of its memory still there when I first fired it up. It actually had whoever the previous owner of the donor scope was, it had his home coordinates still in there. I've now erased that, but it looks like it was never trained on periodic error. So I really should have done that even before imaging tonight, but with the adaptive optics it doesn't really matter. It's so good at correcting these things that when the adaptive optics is on, it's not an issue. But the adaptive optics isn't on right now, so I feel like, I feel like it's not really guiding properly, even at that. Okay, so it's still counting down. Let me try something here. Dead mosquito on my keyboard trying to get in between my keys. Don't like it. Oh, what? What's happened here? Where's my guide star? Where's my guide star? Guide. Do a thing. Oh. Do you need to be calibrated? Oh. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to... I gotta calibrate it. Okay. Well, that's annoying. Alright, so I had to reconnect the camera without the adaptive optics to get it to do the thing I needed to do. But I need to do this before I shut down for the night, because I'm going to be annoyed with myself if I don't take the opportunity while I'm polar aligned to go ahead and retrain the periodic error correction. So we're going to do it. Calibrate. No, I don't need you doing that right now. Oh, I've gone and goofed things. It's trying to learn right now. Well, that's a nuisance. Okay. I'll just retrain it. It's going to learn the wrong thing. Very much the wrong thing, because I got to go through the calibration procedure. You hear the beeping in the background. I don't know if you can hear the beeping in the background, but the telescope's beeping because it's trying to learn right now, and I am not feeding it good corrections. I'm feeding it garbage data because I'm recalibrating the autoguider, because I had to set it up to be connected to the camera without the adaptive optics in the path. So I unplugged the adaptive optics from the camera, plugged the telescope directly into the camera. Really? Okay, sure. So that the adaptive optics is not an issue. Okay, so it's going to move X plus. It's going to move X minus. Y plus. Okay, Y minus. There we go. I don't know what it was doing before, but it's fine. I can... Yeah, that's fine. I know, you're confused. I'm confused now, too. What the heck? That's not... This is all not correct. Okay. I don't know what it thought it was locking onto there, but it's not... I think it's just walking onto noise when I'm trying to get it to train on the star. Or because I'm in the training mode, I've actually goofed up the ability for it to calibrate, which I don't know why that would be. That shouldn't affect it. Okay, let's try 1 second exposure. Okay. Motion too small. No, it's not. You're just not doing right. Question is, why aren't you doing right?